Before I talk about the Middle East, I would like to dedicate some words to this country, the United States of America. This country is a country of immigrants who came from all over the world, from Europe, from Africa, South America, from China, Japan. American people are from all over the world. And when people came to Ellis Island, they came as individuals, lonely people usually, maybe man, his wife, and some kids, leaving the homeland behind their backs and coming to the new world in order to be Americans, to share with others the American dream of life, liberty, and to pursue together the happiness. When people come by themselves as lonely people, it is easy for them to leave behind their backs not only the homeland, but also the homeland culture, because they are detached from their people, from their family in most cases, from their background, and in many cases they actually run away from the culture which, for some unknown reason or known reason, they left in order not to return again. So coming to America was actually in order to create or to become a part of a new nation which grew up in this country. Whether it was explicitly said or not, but this actually what was to emigrate to America. The same is with Canada. The same is with Australia, which there you can say something about punishment which was imposed on some people because they stole something in London. They were sent to New South Wales. Okay. But when they came there, they came to be to a new world for them, to forge a new nation. Why did I begin here? Middle East is totally different, because the societies in the Middle East did not emigrate to the Middle East. They lived there for centuries, if not millennia. They didn't go away, they lived there. They didn't develop as individuals who gathered in a place in order to forge something new, because they still live where their forefathers lived, and they bring kids, and they also bring kids, and for generations, and groups of tribes in the Middle East today can be counted in numbers of hundreds of thousands of people who live in the same area. Just imagine that Manhattan, everybody is one family. Cousins, second cousins, third cousins, fourth cousins. Everybody in Manhattan looks the same, talks the same dialect of English, thinks the same way, because they are all the same tribe. Okay? This is weird. This is why people in Manhattan cannot fathom what tribalism is. And when I talk in this country about tribalism, people think that I talk about the Red Indians, more or less, which something which doesn't exist, who knows for how many hundreds of years. No. In the Middle East, tribalism is alive and kicking. But not only alive and kicking, it is alive and killing. Why? The tribe, first of all, as we mentioned, is a family. Lives in a certain area. People don't move, because if they move out to live with other tribes, they will be foreigners, strangers. Nicht kann unseres. not of us. They will be viewed as invaders if they go to live in other tribes' area. When we look at the map of the Middle East, we see states like this map, for example. But this is, in the best case, a false presentation, because every state is in one color. Look at Iraq, one color, Iran, one color, Syria, one color, Egypt, Libya, so forth. And this is a false presentation, because the right presentation should be this. For example, this is Iraq. And this is the true map, the only true map of Iraq, the tribes of Iraq. Every tribe is like a different nation. His dialect, interests, area, borders. Every tribe has its own leadership, has its own rules and mindset. And the rules of the tribe, especially in Iraq, but in other places in the Middle East as well, are much more important than the state rules. I'll give you a good example. According to the tribal mindset, if your cousin killed somebody from another tribe, you, as his cousin, should hide him, because he's your cousin. Okay? You will never give him in, because you will betray the tribe. According to the state law, if you hide the killer, you are partner in crime. So what would you do? Will you give him in according to the state law, or hide him in your home because he's your cousin? There is no compromise between both. It's either or. Usually, people will adhere to the tribe law because the tribe is here and the government is there. Another good example, one of the most important assets which the tribe has is its honor. Because as a tribe which is humiliated doesn't exist. If a young lady of, let's say, 22 years old, your daughter, allows herself too much with her boyfriend, according to the state law, she is a grown-up. She can do whatever she likes, wherever she likes, with whoever she likes, because she's a grown-up. She's owner of her body. According to the tribal law, she brought shame on the family, on the tribe, and this shame should be washed by her blood when she will be slaughtered by her father, brother, or even son, if she has one. And again, there is no compromise between allowing her do whatever she likes and slaughtering her because she allows herself too much. So what law prevails? The state law or the tribal law? Just look at how many girls are being killed every day in the Arab world for bringing shame on the family. So definitely, and I think it comes to here as well when they immigrate to here. So the tribe has its own laws, which in many cases contradict the state law. The state tries to impose its laws on the tribes. Tribes try to reject it, the state, and actually the state is the enemy of the tribes. The state belongs to one tribe which took the state over, like Gaddafi in Libya. One small tribe, Gaddafi, took the whole country since 1969 until 2012, when he was ousted for more than 42 years. Now, his tribe, Gaddafi is the adjective. The name of the tribe of Gaddafi, for example, is Gadaf ad-Dam, which in Arabic is the one who sheds blood, spritzes blood, not his own. Okay? And according to all the stories in Libya, they gained their name for good reasons. because this is how they behaved. So this is how he behaved to his citizens, Gaddafi. So definitely, when you come to this region, you see groups, significant groups, big groups of people, which in most cases, like in Iraq, there's a majority of the people in this country, play or act according to totally different set of rules which we know from modern states. But the worst is that the tribe, or many of the tribes, if not all of them, are armed to the teeth. And when you add to all these things that the fact that they are also armed to defend themselves from anyone who will try to do anything to them, to invade into their area, to touch their interests, or to impose anything which they reject, then they shoot you first, then they start to ask who you were and what you wanted, because this is the Middle East. But the question is why? Why in this area the societies in Algeria, in Libya, in Morocco, in Tunisia in some parts, Iraq, Jordan, Syria, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, most of the countries in the Middle East are so tribal. Why is this? So many countries in the Middle East remained in such an organization of the state, of the society in tribes. The answer is the resources. More than 90% of the Middle East, between Morocco in the west all the way into Iran in the east, is an arid, dry desert. And in the desert, you have to stick to the resources of life, which means a spring or a well or some, how do you say, shlulit? Pond of water with oasis. Oasis is good. I'm talking about little swamps where rainwater gathered for some days. You stick to it because other groups want to take it from you because they also have to drink, but there is not enough for everybody. So they fight constantly about the resources which are very low grade in the Middle East. And if you have some little land with some grass which succeeded to grow in the desert, you need it for your camel or for your sheep or for your horse, and you will defend it, because if you will not defend it viciously, you will be thrown away by other tribes or other groups, and you will not have anything to eat. So when the area is so poor when it comes to resources, people become tough. Because if you are not tough, you will not be anymore. One Turkish president, Süleyman Demirel, once said that in the Middle East, everybody takes part in a big feast. Either he is on the chair or he is on the plate. So you have to decide. Because if you are not on the chair eating, you will be on the plate being eaten. In his way to describe, I think, is right. Because this is what happens for generations. As stated in the Torah, Al charbecha tichyeh. You will live on your sword. Without your sword, you don't live. So this is a tradition. In some places where they have resources, like in Iraq, of course, Iraq is a desert, but in this line, there is the Euphrates. And in this line is the Tigris. Together they go down from this point, more or less, in Shatt al-Arab. And between these two rivers, they have canals, which they dig. So the tribes of Iraq are peasants. They don't wander around the country because they grow, they have fields, but they keep very well their eyes on their interests. So this is the first component of culture in the Middle East, and I touched only a little part of it, the tribalism. Second thing is ethnicism. Iraq, this part of Iraq are not Arabs, they are Kurds. Some of them, the bright marks here, are Turkmens. They are not even Kurds, they speak Turkish. And some tribes in the south are Persians who emigrated to the west. So Iraq has 4 ethnic groups, and again, they are not disseminated all over the country, but they are concerned in certain places, keeping their culture, keeping their interests, keeping their being a different ethnic group. As you might know, might remember, there were decades of vicious fights in Iraq between the central government in Baghdad and the Kurdish district, led by 2, Mullah Mustafa Barazani and Jalal Talabani, who is today the president of Iraq. Dozens of thousands of people were killed along this vicious war between the central government of Iraq and the Iraqi citizens, the Kurdish citizens of Iraq. Just imagine that the central government of the United States of America has a vicious war against the people of Manhattan, and dozens of thousands of people are killed in this war between Manhattan and Washington, D.C. This is exactly what was in Iraq for decades. Who can understand this in this fortunate country where tribalism and ethnicism does not or should not play any role? And if we remain in Iraq, I can give you a good story from my own experience. Of course, I didn't visit there too much because an Israeli, it's not a סגולה לאריכות ימים to visit Iraq. However, the American Marines, when they were sent to Iraq between 2004, I believe, and 2008, they had some stop in Israel to train in urban warfare in Israel, to get used to the Middle Eastern weather and to the urban warfare. We have a facility in Israel to train on this thing. I used to give them lectures about Arab societies from this point of view, what they are going to face when they come to Iraq. Usually they were new recruits, but the commanders were people with already, officers with experience in Iraq. Once I was talking about tribalism, which in Iraq is widespread, so one of the commanders asked to add a comment. So I, of course, accepted it. And he stood up and he turned to the new recruits behind him and said, look, he tells it once, a year or two before, he was in Iraq, and his unit was training a group of Iraqis who were supposed to become part of the Iraqi police, new police of Iraq. They took an old Iraqi army base, and this was their base where they were training those Iraqis. And the Iraqis from the area came and volunteered to become a policeman, and they got uniform and rifles and everything, and they were trained to be policemen. One early morning, the Americans here in the base, they hear people shoot. So they grabbed the rifles, grabbed the suits and the helmets, and they ran to the fences. They thought that Al-Qaeda or something like this attacks the base. But suddenly they noticed that the voice of the shooting come from inside the base. So they ran after the voice, and they saw that the Iraqis, those who were training to be policemen, are shooting itself from 2 dormitories where they were living. So the Americans had to stand in the middle. So they stopped shooting each other. And they called upon the commanders, or the Iraqi commanders, to ask, what is this? They shoot each other. What happened is that the previous evening, somebody apparently stepped on somebody's toes. And during the night, the struggle developed until they started shooting each other, from the windows towards the morning. Now, those Iraqis, they look the same, they sound the same, they live in the same place for who knows how many years, centuries. And they are all Iraqis. And the Americans, the American soldiers, one is Afro-American, one is Spanish, one is when it came from Boston, one came from New Orleans. Okay, and they all cooperate. The Americans look different, sound different, and they cooperate perfectly. While the Iraqis look the same, and they fight each other. So, and this actually what was there, the 2 tribes. One tribe volunteered to the police. The other tribe didn't want to leave the police to the other tribe, so they also volunteered. And every tribe took 1 dormitory. They would not live together. So they would shoot at each other rather than living with each other. So this is Iraq. So what do you expect? That this country will once cooperate within itself? So definitely, when people start to be angry at each other, they grab the rifle and start shooting at each other. So this is, in short, very short, tribalism as it is in the Middle East, unknown in this fortunate part of the world. The second component of culture in the Middle East is religion. I would say religions. For example, Iraq is like 8 religions. Only in Iraq. There are Muslims, there are Christians, there are Jews, some remain over there. There are Zoroastrians, Sabais, Mandays, Baha'is, some Alawis from Syria, anyway, and there are some Druze as well. So all the religions of the Middle East exist in Iraq. Most of them are viewed by Muslims as infidels, idol worshippers, which, according to Islam, they have the choice between converting to Islam or be shortened by head. So definitely it adds another component of problems between people, because if you see other people as people who do not have the right to live, it is a big problem. It is more in Syria. And we definitely see what happens today in Syria in the atrocities of something like 65,000 people who were killed during the last 2 years almost. In March it will be 2 years. Now this is the map of Syria, the division of Syria to districts, official districts. But the official districts of Syria actually reflect the demographic divide of Syria. This part is Kurdish part, a different nation. Kurds are different people, they are not Arabs. This part, these 2 districts are the Alawis. These are the Druze. Now, Alawis and Druze are Arabs, but they are not Muslims. And they are viewed by Muslims as infidels. Jews and Christians are tolerated by Islam because they are Ahl al-Kitab, means people of the book, which they have Bible. But Druze and Alawis are sheer infidels. And they have the choice between converting to Islam and to be shortened by head. Deir ez-Zor are Bedouins, different culture from the cities of Damascus, Aleppo, Hama, and Homs. Means it's divided sharply by ethnic axis of division religious axis of division, culture axis of division, means Bedouin and city, totally different cultures. And if you want, sectarian as well, just like Iraq, Sunnis and Shiites and some Christian denominations. So another axis of division which exists in the Middle East. So when societies are so fragmented and so much inflicted by negative views about each other, no wonder that violence is the name of the game when it comes to all kinds of disputes, especially in states which were created by the colonialism, which include groups which traditionally were hostile to each other. Now they have to live with each other, to sit around one fire and to sing Kumbaya together. It doesn't work. It doesn't happen. And this is why these atrocities that we see today. Egypt, for example, another example of violence as we see today, especially between Muslims and Copts. Copts are Christians. And Christians, by too many Muslims, are viewed as almost infidels, especially if they have not only the cross, but also Jesus Christ on the cross. Because the cross, as some abstract thing, can maybe be tolerated. But when you put a human being on it, a statue of a human being, this is idol worshipping. This cannot be tolerated. And since there are churches and monasteries in Egypt with the statue of Jesus Christ on the cross, this aggravates the Muslims extremely. This is why they burn churches and they kill Copts and they blow explosive cars near their churches, or just take a rifle and they shoot them dead when they come out from the church. So you can see it very easily in Egypt as well. In Tunisia, for example, only recently a clip of Muslims who caught a Muslim who converted to Christianity, and they slaughter him. I will not show you the clip. I have it on my computer, because you will lose your appetite for at least 2 weeks if you see how they do it. It's shocking to see how today in Tunisia, a state which was modern until 2 years ago, people are slaughtering each other only because they dared to convert to Christianity. Yemen, another tribal society, today is about to be divided between the northern Yemen and the southern Yemen, as it was divided until 1991, because the tribes from the south do not like the tribes from the north. Happen not to like them. Sudan is divided already a year and a half ago between northern Sudan with the capital of Khartoum, which is mostly Muslims, and the southern part of Sudan, which is Christians and animists, means idol worshippers, different tribes, who never lived in peace together. 50 years of vicious war, more than 2 million victims. Who heard about this? Who knows about this? In Sudan, until it was divided to a year and a half ago, and they continue to fight each other about oil and about other things. And oil, if we touch this issue, brought to the Middle East disasters much more than wealth. It destroyed, especially in the Gulf, the societies from within. When those societies of those tribes in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Bahrain, actually totally modernized, at least superficially, adopting all kinds of Western ways of conduct, and it creates big problems between the old generation and the new generation, things which we tend not to hear, but definitely those societies suffer from this very rapid modernization of the society. However, the Gulf Emirates are the only stable area in the Middle East. Why? When I'm talking about Kuwait, this country in the Gulf, Qatar, and the 7 Emirates, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, Fujairah, so forth. The 7 Emirates here. 9 states, very stable, legitimate states with no struggles. Why? Are they from another planet? You will say the oil, wealth. Iraq also has oil and wealth. Iraq is not stable. Libya, Sudan, Yemen, all are oil-producing countries, mayhem in these countries. So definitely, oil doesn't contribute to stability. The fact that Kuwait is stable and Qatar and the 7 Emirates here, the reason that they are stable is because every one of them is one single tribe. And the high fences make good neighbors. When you divide the countries, every tribe has its own state, as small as it can be, and there are small states in the world, Luxembourg and Andorra and San Marino and Monaco and Gibraltar and the Vatican, okay? And nobody there suffers from claustrophobia. On the contrary, big countries like the Soviet Union and Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia were divided to ethnic groups, to ethnic states. Belgium is always on the edge of being divided in the Flems and the Wallons. Recently, the Scots have second thoughts about remaining in the United Kingdom, which nobody knows to what extent it is really united. What, Ireland, Northern Ireland is united socially with Britain. And as you might know, the district of Catalonia in Spain already wants independence from Spain. Okay, so Europe also never succeeded in really uniting ethnic groups. It has the European Union and the Euro and everything, but under the surface, ethnicity remained alive and maybe kicking as well. While the Middle East also remained loyal to its ethnicity. Look at Afghanistan, for example. The different colors are different ethnic groups. And here you have the legend. Kyrgyzs and Turkmenis and Nuristanis, Pamiris, Pashtunis, Tajikis, Hazaris, Uzbekis, Aimakis, and Baluchis. These are the ethnic groups of Afghanistan. Afghanistan was created by Britain and Russia some 160 years ago, hoping that one time there will be one nation. Not even one group is named Afghani. Not even one. Afghanistan is an artificial name which the British gave them, as if the Hazaris will quit being Hazaris and become Afghanis, and so will be with the Baluchis and the Aimakis and the Uzbekis. Why the heck should they do it? Only because the Brits wanted them? Okay? This is what happens when the state is made not from individuals as it in this country, but is made of groups, heavy, big, solid, armed. Why should they change their culture and become something else? And this is why Afghanistan is a dead body politic, which unfortunately America and other countries continue to resuscitate as if it has any chance to live as a body politic, normal body politic. It never did, it does not, and in my humble view, it will never live by itself. It will always be ruled by one SOB who will be our SOB, if you know what I relate to. Just like Karzai today, getting money and getting arms and support from this country, for example, and everybody looks about democracy under Karzai. Excuse me. Okay? The Iranians cannot wait anymore until the Americans will get out of Afghanistan, because Iran will take Afghanistan over in no time. And they do not care about any human rights watch which might say anything about how they behave there. And the Iranians know very well how to control countries. They do it to themselves. Iran by itself is a conglomerate of 5 ethnic groups. The Persians, which are not even half of the country, Azeris, Baluchis, Arabs and Kurds, and some Turkmens as well, which never mingled to be one Iranian nation. This is a false presentation to say that there is an Iranian nation, just like Syrian nation, which people kill each other in masses, as we see during the last 2 years. Okay, so the world, when it watches the maps of the Middle East, actually is being deceived by this picture, as if every state is one solid society. It is not. And this is why this region is such violent, because of the reality of the tribalism on one side, Islamism on the other side, and traditions which everybody sticks to those traditions above everything else. Until this thing changes, the Middle East will remain violent, because it rejects anything which comes from the outside. It rejects Israel, because Israel is not part of the Middle East or Middle Eastern mindset, because we in Israel are Western country, operates according to Western laws and norms of free elections, free media, freedom of speech, freedom of women, gays and lesbians, everything which characterizes Western societies. This is why Israel cannot be accepted as it is in the Middle East, culturally. And this is the core problem of Israel in the Middle East. And I admit, we don't speak Arabic usually. Very few Israelis speak Arabic fluently, especially, to correspond with the Arab world, because our friends are in Europe and in America. And this is, unfortunately, Israelis usually turn their backs to the Middle East. I don't know if they turn their faces to the Middle East, if it will help. I'm not so sure. But the fact that Israel turns its back to the Middle East, and with good reasons. Who wants to be associated with such people who kill each other in masses every day and night, as we see in Syria, as we see in Egypt, as we see in Libya? Look, Libya, those tribes united to get rid of Gaddafi. What do they do now with the freedom which they were granted by Europe and America, which kicked out Gaddafi with the planes and bombs? What do they do now? Now they fight each other. Like a month ago, one militia of one tribe took over the parliament house in Tripoli. Another tribe which didn't like it attacked them, and the whole house was demolished, because two tribes were fighting on the same parliament house. Just imagine that the Manhattan tribe would fight against the Philadelphia tribe in Washington, D.C. on the Capitol Hill, and the whole Capitol Hill will be destroyed because the Americans are using RPG, the Manhattan is using RPG, and Philadelphia is using light cannons. Okay? This is what Libya is. Tribalism. So this is, unfortunately, the Middle East, where Israel, as a Western society, open society, individualistic society. Look, we also came from all around the world. My parents came from Poland. My daughter's husbands, one came, the parents came, one from Afghanistan, another came from Bukhara, another one came from Morocco, another from Tunisia. We gathered in Israel from all over the world as individuals who came to Israel to be Israelis and to leave behind their backs the culture of where they came from. So this is why Israel is more or less like this country, because it's made of individuals who immigrated to this place. This is why the Middle East doesn't like us, because they see us as invaders, people who came as singles, which do not belong in the tribal Middle East. So it's not a matter of occupation, especially not of 67. The occupation of 48 is the problem. Means the mere existence of the state of Israel. This is the problem in the eyes of our neighbors, who would accept us only if we are invincible. Because this is another component of tribalism. A strong tribe, a vicious tribe, a tribe which is confident in his objectives, armed and ready to use the arms, will be left alone. People will not hug him and not kiss him, but he will have peace, only because he will be left alone, because everybody is afraid of him. And this is the only way which Israel can survive in the Middle East. Unfortunately, this is not Europe, this is not America, this is an area with totally different rules of the game. In the Middle East, if you are strong as a tribe or ethnic group or a state, you will remain forever. If you are weak, you will get a kick in you, you know what, and you will be thrown away. And this is actually, I would say, a little introduction to the real Middle East. Something which you will never hear in the media because it's not politically correct. Something which even the academia, in most cases, tries not to see, not to admit. And unfortunately, people who are, their knowledge comes from the media on one side, and from the academia in this country, unfortunately, from the other side, usually is not aware to the situation of tribalism on one side and parochialism on the other side, which actually is or are the name of the game in the Middle East. We at Bar-Ilan University, group of some 20 professors, decided to forge a new research center which will say the truth about the Middle East. It's called the Center for the Middle East, for the Study of the Middle East and Islam. I'm the director of this center. And we are all speaking Arabic and or Persian and or Turkic, so we don't need translations. We go to the source of the Middle East, of the texts, what people say, what people write, and the real picture of the Middle East. Unfortunately, too many research centers in this country, think tanks and so forth, very rarely people speak Arabic or read Arabic. And the outcome or the products of those research centers is according to this. But this is the good picture. The bad picture is when those research centers start to work with Gulf money, which is pumped into them, and divert everything which they publish about the Middle East, according, of course, to the dictates which come with the money from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, and so forth, and Libya as well. We at Bar-Ilan will never be working on Gulf money, because we do not need the dictates which come with the Gulf money. We'll say the truth and we'll educate the world, that's what we hope, to show the world, we'll try to show the world the real picture of the Middle East, why America, or why Iraq, where 4,000 American soldiers were killed in Iraq after 2003. 4,000. $1 trillion, 1,000 billions were poured on Iraq's soil. Today, Iraq is manipulated totally by Iran. Who expected it? But this is what happened. America liberated Iraq from the dictator. Now the Ayatollahs of Tehran control Iraq entirely. Who knows about this? Who publishes about this? People do not want to talk about this. People do not want to know about this because it's too agonizing after all the what America sacrificed in Iraq, to find now that Iraq is actually the front yard of Iran. So this is what happens when people come to an area where they do not understand anything about the culture, and they try to re-engineer peoples and nations without any knowledge about their nature, about the culture, about their history, about their aspirations, about what motivates them. This you need research, real research. Unfortunately, very rare in this country. This is what we want to establish in Bar Ilan, and we hope to find a person who would like to help us about this, to show the world the reality of the Middle East.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support Shalom TV with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the Shalom TV website homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to GEM. To GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive on DVD with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.